Today I have a pretty awesome review to share with you. This is the Wenger Mini Grip or the Pocket Grip. Now, unfortunately in the multi-tool world, we do not have a surplus of older multi-tools that are just fantastic, that are plier based, but there are some out there. And this is one of those older designs that I have not gotten on the channel yet, but I'm excited to share with you. And from what I understand, this dates from around 1998. Now, Wenger had several different models of plier-based tools. They had a much larger model, and then this is the small model where they were actually trying to be competitive against companies like Leatherman. Now, on this model right here, as you can see, there are spring-loaded pliers, and then there was a needle nose variant, and then more of a blunt nose variant. Now, as far as I know, this is probably the needle nose variant right here, and these are the wire cutters. There's not too much to say right there. And then on the back, there were two different types of systems. I think this might be the first system, and people thought that this one sort of unlocked a little bit too easy. So then they did change it a little bit. It's not too bad, but it is fairly easy to touch, and then it unlocks. So what is really cool about this tool is that you have 1/4" bits that slide right in here, and then they fit in this plastic holder right here. There is a tab that you just snap down here, and then it undoes like that. But the only negative thing is they are fairly prone to falling off. So I almost bought one of these tools without the bits, but I'm glad that I did actually buy the bit holder. Now, you could potentially just use it like this, but as you can see, there's not a huge amount of clearance on this tool if you would use it like that. Now, one of the really cool things about this is that on this back side, we have this holder that fits like so, and then you can go ahead and put that back like that, and then this fits in here, and essentially it's almost like a 1/4" drive right there. And so then it holds your, or extension is what I was trying to say, extension. You have your 1/4" extension right here, and then you can just use your tool, and it makes a lot more sense with this extension. So I really like how Wenger did that. I think there's so much thought that actually went into this tool. Is it perfect? No, but yeah, it's pretty neat. And with my set, this comes with several flat drivers, 3 flat drivers and 3 Phillips drivers. Obviously, you could switch that out and put what you want in there, and then that snaps a little bit back in place, and then you can lock that like so. Pretty neat. Now on this side, there is the knife. Now there are some versions that come with a serrated blade, or some serrations, but I think most of the versions come with a blade like so. There is a metal version, there is the Porsche version, and then I think there might be one or so other versions. Now, when we talk about any special multi-tool, especially older multi-tools and more collectible, our good friend of the channel, Jan Holmes, definitely reached out, and he was able to help me with some additional information, which I've just shared with you. So he has some of the metal versions of this tool. And then as you can see on the screen, there is a picture of the metal version. I think that's really awesome. Now, when we talk about price of this tool, that's where things get a little crazy, because on eBay, sometimes these tools go for $200 to $300. Now, just hang on. Wait, take a deep breath, because I was able to get this one under $100. If they're not in pristine condition, you can get these for under $100, more like $90. And there are some right now around $150. I still think that's a little bit pricey, but if you're patient enough, you can get a little bit of a better deal on these tools. There's not a whole bunch of information out there about these. There is a Victorinox wiki page that is pretty informative, and I can leave that a link to that below. But yeah, pretty awesome tool. Unfortunately, this was discontinued, I think about 2008, 2010. So for about 10 years, this was on the market. Now over here we have the little wire notch, and then there is the opener and the flat screwdriver, and then on this side we have the can opener right there. All right, so there are several other tools that we need to look at on the outside right here. And on this side, we have the file, and this is actually a much better looking file. It's hard to explain, but it actually looks like a very good file. I'm so impressed by this. A lot of times on the cheaper tools, it looks like they have been taken to the machines and the job is like half done, but this actually looks really nice. And it's got like this hacksaw almost blade on the bottom that looks actually pretty aggressive. Really, really neat right there. And then this other tool right here actually is the ruler. Now see, this is something that Leatherman could have done with the Alpha. They could have actually printed numerals on one of their blades, and I do think that's fairly neat from Wenger. I'm sure they're not the only ones that have done that. I think I've seen it on some other tools, but I do like that they're trying to use multiple tools or add things on tools. So there's the saw and the ruler right there. So inches on the one side, centimeters on this side right here. So we have that. And then we talked about the knife. Now the other tool that is really easy to forget is this awl right here. It sort of sneaks by on this side, but there is the awl, and then that can be very useful for many different stuff. And yeah, that's cool. Now on the bottom here we have, now they call this, I think on the information sheet that I've seen, they call that the oil pike or something like that, but to me it looks like a toothpick. And then there is the tweezers. Sometimes in translation things get changed, so maybe that's why it's stated that way. But yeah, so really unique tool. Pretty neat. All right, now I do want to do some measurements and actually weigh this tool right here. So let's go ahead, get the scales out, turn this on, and I'm curious to see how much it weighs. So it comes in as 7.5 ounces. Wow, so a whole ounce lighter than the Leatherman Wave, or it comes in at 212 grams. So that's pretty neat right there. That's a lot of times even, I don't know, it just seems like every tool that I handle, most of them are 9 ounces or over anymore, so it's nice to see something that's under 8 ounces. So the sheath or pouch that came with this is a pretty standard nylon pouch. It does have the Velcro, and then you can see that this has definitely maybe had some water damage. It's definitely aged some right there. I probably could clean that up fairly easily. But overall, I am very impressed with this. Does it have some issues? Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Does it have some issues? Yes, it does. These pliers, I do think they open, they don't stay locked as well as I would like. This can fall off pretty easily. And it doesn't have a huge amount of tools, but actually for the size, I am pretty impressed. So what I would love to see with this is I would like to see different versions where there is maybe just like a blade and a saw, or a blade and a file, maybe no knife and just the file on this side and the saw on this side. So it could actually even be a little thinner. The one thing I have to say is it is a little bit of a thick tool right here, but overall, I think it's pretty awesome. Unfortunately, now I'm going to have to get the larger version because I like this so well. I would like to get the larger version, add that to my collection, so I'll probably start being on the lookout for that as well. So maybe I can bring that on the channel and review that for you guys. So definitely excited about this tool. Who knows, maybe in the future we'll see a company like Victorinox do something again with a design like this. I don't know, but I think it's a pretty neat tool. I love it in this small package. And then talking about small, let's go ahead and measure this so you guys get some idea. It comes in, the tool itself comes in around 3¼ inches, and then the plier does stick out so that with the pliers extended, it comes in at 4½ inches. Now in centimeters, it's just about 8 centimeters long, the main body, and then the whole tool is about 11½ centimeters long. So if this could fold down a little bit like the Gerber, man, that would be even more perfect. But unfortunately, it does stay fully extended. But I love this little tool. Let me know what you guys think about it.